Getting about those things again for tuning into yet another video. Infamous coming at you live from the West Coast. Yet again, San Jose, California. So let's go ahead and talk about the biggest surprise in 2023, or my own, just surprise. I guess the biggest surprise in 2023 as far as a cruiser bike, the Breakout. I'm not sure how to word this video. Maybe I'll figure it out in the title. But I was looking at this bike and looking at the specs. I've never test ridden a Breakout. Maybe that's the reason why I had these expectations or low expectations of the bike. Maybe that's what it was. But of course, just the overall specs in general, I didn't think this was going to be a good bike at all. And once I got around to it and test rode it earlier this year, I was completely surprised and taken by the performance and the handling of the bike. It's just, when you look at the overall specs, we'll look at it right now in a bit, so I could just point out some stuff. But the bike handled great. It wasn't sluggish or anything like that. The bike handled amazing. I was really, quite surprised, knowing, of course, what this bike is. It's not a performance cruiser or a performance bagger or whatever. It's not entirely a performance bike. Yes, it has a 117, but looking at the forward controls, looking at the rake, and looking at the rear wheel, you don't expect this bike to handle as it did. So I'm not sure if Harley tweaked something. I guess when they released it in 2018, the Breakout, it used to have a 3.5 gallon tank, so I wasn't really happy. Overall, the style of it, of course, you guys seen my builds. They're more purpose builds, club style builds. In that sense, both of my Harleys they're both 28-degree rakes. So they handle better than what this one should have handled. But after riding it, I was really surprised how well it did. So you guys can see the rake, 34 degrees. So it's really raked out. It's got that custom look to it. You guys know choppers. What is it? Orange County Choppers. That's the show I used to watch when I was a teenager. I was a huge fan of it. The Laffies or the Yaffies. Paul, I can't remember. It's been such a long time, but I was a fan of it. I caught a lot of the episodes. I was a teenager. This is, like I said, many years ago. But it's got that, of course, that custom bike to it. So if you see their choppers, a lot of the trend that was going on in those years, everybody wanted one of them. I believe at the time they were selling them for like $40,000, Orange County choppers. And you had Honda, I think a lot of the manufacturers, a lot of manufacturers were also trying to get into that market with their own version of it. And considering what Harley offers with the 2023 Breakout, and compare that to what Orange County was selling those bikes for, you really do get a really solid deal, considering, you're comparing those prices. But it's really up to you guys. I know the Breakout is something that they've been selling in Europe and Australia, I believe. They've been selling them. They stopped selling them here in the United States, but they're still like a popular bike or popular model outside of the United States. So like I said, getting back on topic, the specs of the bike, you would think the bike would handle like complete crap, but 34-degree rake, considering what most of the Softails, you're looking at a 30-degree rake. The Fat Bob and the Lowrider S are the only ones with a 28-degree rake. So you guys can see this is still, considering the normal 30 degrees, this is still out by an additional 4 degrees. So it's really stretched out. The wheelbase is a little bit extended, stuff like that. And then you look at the rear wheel, you have a 240 on the rear. That's massive. I believe that's as big as the Fat Bob. So you have a 240 on the rear. On the Lowrider, I believe it's a 180. And on the Street Bob, I believe it's a 150 on the rear. So that is a huge rear tire. And here, of course, you can see that they've upgraded it to a 5-gallon tank, which I like myself. They're using the same tank and the same dash that you get on the Lowrider ST. So all in all, running weight's 683 pounds. I believe it's a couple pounds heavier than the Lowrider S, or maybe the Street Bob. I think it's the Street Bob. But I mean, the design wise, it's a great looking bike. A lot of chrome, a lot of chopper bobber look. Of course, you can really see that front end just raked out, and of course, it also has that massive wheel on the front. That's another thing that I noticed test riding the Fat Bob, because it has that massive tire on the front. The suspension felt a little bit better than it does on my Lowrider S, and that's because you have more rubber. The more rubber you have, the better it's going to handle, the better it's going to absorb, the imperfections. This one has a massive, I believe that's a 19-inch or a 20-inch. Let's see, that front wheel is, where is it? Is this right? Is it a 21? Wow, it's a 21. I thought it was a 19, 20. No, it's a 21-inch front wheel. That's massive. So considering the front wheel, the size of the rear tire and the rake, like I said, you would think the bike would handle like crap. It doesn't. So very surprised overall. The color options, I'm not a big fan of the tank badging or anything like that, but I mean, the bike looks aggressive. It looks mean. You can really see the overall style of it. This is the one I test rode, the silver one. Look at that. That I guess that is a 21-inch front wheel. That's massive. And then you also have a 19 on the rear, or an 18. Also just a massive wheel on both. You have the chopped fender. I like my full fenders, but the whole look of the bike is complete. And then of course you also have the drag bars, the straight with the risers. So I mean, if it handles well, like I said, surprisingly well. You guys can let me know in the comments, have you test ridden this bike? It's just one of those bikes where it's pretty much complete. Nothing really looks good on this as far as wind protection, fairings, saddlebags. I mean, I think maybe a swing arm saddlebag will look good, but the overall style and what it's meant for, it's not really that kind of bike that lends itself to those type of mods. So I don't know. I mean, I really didn't think I was gonna like this bike, and after test riding it, I really liked the way it felt. I'm also not a fan of the forward controls. So in the overall triangle on this, it's just like I said, it's really that chopper feel. And yeah, I'd say this was the biggest surprise for 2023 as far as the Softails. I really did like the Lowrider ST, but I mean, the only reason why I guess it's not on this list is because that was the big surprise for 2022, and I didn't really get around to test riding it until 2023. Anyways, let's talk about the powertrain, the drivetrain. I have this engine. All right, it's a Milwaukee 8. The only difference is the displacement between my bike and this one. I have a 114 in mine. This one's a 117. But overall, the valves, the cam, they're all built the same. Well, except for the cam, of course, that you have a higher lift on the 117. But the way it handles the drivetrain, the transmission, the primary, they're all the same. So as far as the engine and the way it's been going, Harley really improved the oil pumping in them back in 2020 when my bike was released. So as far as the rideability, I guess, or just the overall performance of what it is, it's an air-cooled V-twin pushrod engine. You could do a lot to these. There's a lot of potential in these bikes with just a stage 2. This bike, I'm pretty sure, will handle amazing with a proper stage 2. So as far as the engine, the sound, single crank, single pin crank, and all this other goodies that Harley's known for, the bike sounds amazing. It handles great, considering it's an air-cooled V-twin. It's just as far as the performance, the 117, it's got a little bit of torque. So what is it, 120 at the wheel, or 110 foot-pounds of torque at the wheel. So overall, a great little package from Harley. Of course, $20,000. You know, it's a little steep, but I think what you're paying for is the 117, the chrome on the bike, and the massive 21-inch wheel on the front, and the massive rear wheel as well. So I mean, you guys can decide. You also have the external monoshock on this right here. I don't know. I don't really see a good use for this, the external shock, unless you're really carving it up or you gotta adjust your rear suspension on the fly. But I mean, for the most part, you kind of set it and forget it. I ride solo all the time, so that's probably the reason. Maybe if you do ride two up, but I mean, who's really gonna put their loved one on that seat on the rear unless you swap it out? I don't know. I mean, this is one of the bikes where it's mainly a solo riding bike, in my opinion. But I just don't really see the use of an external monoshock unless somebody can give me a different perspective in the comments. But overall, the bike's amazing. All right. So you guys stay out there, stay safe. Life's risk. Get out there and ride. Later.